Vitor, you're on mute.
Not the best start. Oh. Hi, folks, and thank you, Jeroen, just for the kind gesture. Didn't happen. The first time ever. But it had to happen at some point. At least I'm not here by myself, so I'm be speaking for 2-3 minutes on mute.
It could always be worse. That's a lesson for all of us.
So what are you here for other than me talking on mute? So the main topic is what sparks a writer's imagination. We have 3 things in mind: the bonds of family, the beauty of nature, or the rhythm of music. So tonight we're going to explore those everyday elements, our closest connections, the natural world around us, and the sounds that move us. How does that shape storytelling, poetry, and the writing process? So from childhood memories to forest walks, from melodies that stir emotions to rhythms that free creativity, join us to uncover what is the heartbeat of writing. So for that purpose, I have here Jeroen, who already helped me from the beginning, and I have Maria. So thank you very much for joining me this evening. And I just want to encourage people who are watching us to share with someone who may benefit from this conversation. And if they enjoy what we do here, they can also press the like button below. And if they haven't subscribed to the channel, the subscribe button is still there. So before I get into the discussion, let me just ask Jeroen, how are you doing? And what are the news on your end?
Pretty good. Summer's coming to an end. Very busy summer, and did a lot of cool stuff. But no, all good, in good form. Looking forward to tonight's, wherever tonight takes us.
Good stuff. Maria, how are you?
Yeah, I'll start the opposite. Excited to see where this conversation will take us, apart from the 3 topics that we usually have. We end up exploring like 13 or 30. But personally, I'm very hyped for the next few days because I'm going back to Greece for my brother's wedding. So it's going to be nice to see family. And I think after tonight's conversation, I'll be thinking of a bit... few more things than I thought I would be thinking about in a wedding. Maybe get some inspiration from relatives, create some new characters and whatnot.
Maybe they're watching us and they're going to discuss it with you tomorrow. So that's a good start.
Yeah, maybe they will be all over it.
Yeah, maybe it will be worth checking the Greek news over the next few days to see if there is anything.
Greek woman ostracized from her own country.
If you're on the other side of the screen, make sure to put a comment on the chat. Chat box is open, so we are happy to comment on our end. So if you have anything to add, we want this to be dynamic, we want this to work on both ends, so please use it. So let's start with family. Now that we just raised the topic, let's start with family. Family first things first. So I'm interested to see from your end how much family impacts your writing. Let's say not just now, but if you look back in your roots, if there's anyone you can relate to when you are creating, if you think you are echoing someone's personality or world perspective, or if you don't, if you are just let's say an outsider when it comes to this sphere of life, that's also something to explore. So I would like to get an understanding from your perspective, guys. Maybe I start with you, Jeroen. What are your thoughts on family and creativity?
Well, I have a wonderfully, slightly diverse, slightly crazy family. I think the older I'm getting, I realize that the more everybody else's family is exactly the same as well. I used to think that I was on my own in that. I've discovered that that's not the case. But I have a pretty diverse and big and wonderfully kind of. We always say we put the D in dysfunctional, but it works very well. And so I suppose sometimes I do get inspiration from some of the wilder elements of my family for characters and things like that. That's definitely there. And also maybe things that certain family members have experienced, or experiences that I have with those family members, which bring up memories. And, I suppose as a writer, you always take a little bit of your personal experience, your personal surroundings. And I certainly have had, some inspiration from family. Also, some of my family are also writers, or have also been writers. And so more and more I find that, purely the fact that they have been writing, and that they have been, whether it's poetry or, books or whatever, I seem to look to them for certain inspiration as well. Just kind of, they've done this, now it's my turn, kind of thing. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I suppose I have to be careful as well, because certainly in the work that I'm doing, the fiction work, I do take some influences and inspiration from family, but I'm also very careful not to overdo that, because I think you can very quickly go down the line of just basically kind of copy and paste, some crazy family member or whatever, So you have to have a limit on it as well. But the other thing that sometimes happens to me is that, I write about a personal experience, and a personal experience that may have occurred in the family. And funnily enough, sometimes writing about it, we've discussed this before. I mean, writing is therapy, but sometimes you find when you're writing it that you understand your family members better, or you understand their motivation better, or you maybe understand the scenario that they found themselves in. And without the process of writing about it, I wouldn't maybe understand it, or I might have a certain viewpoint on it. So it's not just in kind of inspiring me in character wise, but it's inspiring me, or sort of, explaining to me a scenario, or a certain situation that somebody was in. And maybe I can understand that situation better, or maybe I have a better view of it. And again, that's through writing it. So it's an interesting thing, because we've all experienced things with our family, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. And I find that sometimes, well, with the good and the bad, but sometimes if you're looking at particularly a bad situation and you write about it, and even if you're writing it in terms of fiction, so you're fictionalizing it and you're changing it and you're changing the characters, etc. But I often find that I come away with a very different viewpoint about that through the process of writing, which I find quite interesting. And that's probably, that's where I would use family, or I would feel that they influence my writing, or bring it along. And then, of course, the other part of it is that the other book that I'm working on is a lot about my family. So it's about my personal life and everything that's happened. And in that, I definitely feel that I understand them better, or understand certain things that happened better, because I'm writing about them. And I can maybe, look at it in a very different viewpoint. And I have a lot of aha moments, the moment where you're kind of going, whoa, I never thought about that before. What? But purely because you're putting it on paper and you're thinking, okay, words are coming or whatever. And then you suddenly go away and you think about the scenario, whatever the scenario is, and you go, actually, I never thought about it like that before. Why not? But it's much clearer, or it's much better now. Yeah, so that's kind of, the way the family would influence my writing to a certain extent.
There's a comment here before I pass the word to Maria, which is not family related, but I need to put it on the screen. So with some AI, maybe we can say it's family related. Someone is saying Jeroen is a lake in Zagreb. Don't know if you want to say something about it.
I love it. I am so happy that I have something that's not just a really weird foreign name that's named kind of after me. I like it. I never knew that I was a lake in Zagreb, but I've been a lot of things to a lot of people. So a lake in Zagreb, I'm all over it.
I think we discussed this in our first interview when we talk about our names and how are they misrepresented in Ireland and some other parts of the world. I think we could do one episode just about that.
Oh, 100%. I think yourself, myself, and Maria, I'd say Maria has a couple of crackers as well in terms of pronunciation of names. I could do a podcast only on mispronunciation.
Yeah, maybe once we can do a live from this lake in Zagreb. How about that?
Hey, that's a great idea. I love it.
Live from the lake, from Jeroen's lake.
Hey, I've never been to Croatia. If I ever get there, I'm gonna have to go and visit Jeroen.
Right. Let's go back. Let's go back to family. We can set aside Croatia for now. Yeah, I just want to say that I think there are people in our family that, even though they are not writers, they might impact the way we create, the way we perceive the world. If they might not be a role model, but somehow they are there. Like I don't have any writer in my family, but I know that my grandfather was writing, and what he was writing was poetry or songwriting to be played in the village back in the 50s or 60s. So he had the habit to write. He liked to create. He liked to separate himself from others and do, his own imagination exercise. So people tend me to relate to him in the family, and we look alike, like face-wise and body language and even voice. We look alike, and the older I am, the more similar I am to him. I would also say, like from my end, that although I distance myself from my father when it comes to political views, they shape me, whether I like it or not. I grew up being educated by a Marxist mindset, so I cannot deny that. Although I'm now on the opposite side, but that's part of me. And I also would like to give a shout out here to my sister, because I remember when I was a kid that she had a book called The Man Who Changed the World. And they were like Einstein, Thomas Edison. And I was like, wow, there are people who are part of history, just individuals who made something amazing to humanity. And because of that, they'll be remembered, centuries after centuries. So I had this thing of, what can I do to be one of them? Of course, I'm very far from being an Einstein or an Edison, but it gave me that spark, to pursue something different and not just remind, say, on the ordinary kind of things without any arrogance. Just try to find something that it's not visible, let's say, to everyone, and explore it. So I think family, whether we preserve it or not as role models, they are on us. It's like genetics. There's no way around. Maria, I'm interested on your story when it comes to family. I think we have a lot to say.
Oh gosh, do we? Yes, I have a ton to say. No, with my family, it's in many ways similar enough to yours. I thought, I grew up in a very very weird family sometimes, not in the ways that you think, but in my family we have this thing where we argue a lot, so my argument skills are really honed, and I always thought, people are more peaceful than we are. Like, we would argue about so many things, not viciously or anything, just disagree a lot. And then growing up, my family is one of the most like smooth sailing, normal, no different than it was really, and that is a lesson in itself. But I hadn't really realized how much writing runs in the family until I recently shared with my family that it's a big passion of mine. It's something that I do more or less my entire life, but it was very personal to me. I wouldn't share it with a lot of people. So when I talked about it with them recently, they reminded me that my paternal grandfather was a published writer. He'd write history books about that. He has written a really big one about the village where he comes from, and then there's some other ones about the temples of the god of health, Asclepius, all over Greece, I think all over Peloponnese. He was writing a third one about those kinds of temples found all over the world. So it's not fiction, but it touches on mythology and on, Greek history, which are two of my favorite topics. And then my maternal grandfather was a priest, and he would write his own sermons, which I remember them being very, very good and very exactly as you would like, I think, a sermon to be: simple, touching your heart, not being, grandiose or making you feel bad about anything, just really inspiring, really positive, heartwarming things. And then I have like an aunt or an uncle here and there, like an aunt who's published a children's book, an uncle who wrote a brief history of our family, things like that. And all of a sudden, all these like little mushrooms of writing started popping out. It made me feel like, okay, I have this like historical backup in what I do. And it made me feel really, really nice. Actually, it felt like it's something that I share with some family members that, are either not with us anymore or would like to have a closer relationship with. So that was very, very inspiring for me. And I draw a lot of inspiration from my family, actually. And it says exactly, as Jeroen says, and I guess whether you want to or not, you draw from them. It's whether, they've inspired you as a person, and that's the force that you put into your writing, or if you base a character or an event on something that you've experienced with them. My thoughts turn a lot to my family when I'm writing characters as well. And I find it easier to give, their faces to some of the people that I write about. But then this is very restrictive because I don't want anything bad to happen to these characters. So I have to change it around. But I am actually writing in one of my projects. It's very, very early stages now. But I like it's keeping me busy in a very nice way, and it's dealing with a lot of personal things as well. It features my parents and my siblings as well. And I find that it's making me think back of things that have happened to us as a family, things that we bonded on, things that drove us apart for a little bit, or difficulties we have faced together. And it is very therapeutic. And I think it's also a very good exercise in understanding other people and not, providing excuses, because I think it's not a thing I like, just to find excuses for behavior, but I like to understand people and say, not judge them, because you never know what you would do if you were in someone else's shoes. And I find that thinking about it that way has resolved a lot of internal conflict that I had with like either members of my family or things or fights that we had. And I think it can only benefit you, not in the directly, think of what you put down in the paper, but the whole process of it. Because, sometimes you write something and you're thinking, why would that character act like that? And you try to find motive or what drives them. When you write about someone who's very close to their family, it forces you to think, what is a thing that brings families closer? If they, they're not very close to their parents, for example, what effects does they have? And I think it opens you up to understanding people better in general, but it also makes the writing richer, because you cannot just put someone in a situation and say, okay, now you'll interpret what happens here. It makes the writing more believable, more enjoyable, and it fills up gaps in the story and in building your character's arc, whether it's fiction or you're basing it on real people or anything. So I think they're inseparable, and I would go as far to say that writing influences family as much as family influences writing. For me, it's a bond that you cannot separate or leave behind, even if you're not thinking about it. It does influence what we do, and writing is such a personal thing. It feeds off experiences. So yeah, family is extremely, extremely important and present, and at least what I do.
I'm thinking here, like within the family, and I know that people may have different perspectives. Let's say your uncle thinks one way, and then your grandmother thinks another way, and your brother a third one. But a writer's seen as something or something fancy within the group, or rather a black sheep, Maria?
I think I think my folks would not care less unless I write something that they really disagree with and I present it as, I'm really publishing a, really weird manifesto of sorts. I don't think they mind. They've not really been, oh my God, like, look at you, you're so clever, like beaming with pride, or they haven't reacted to it negatively at all. I just think they find it interesting that I have some things in my mind. I think especially my brother, maybe, who's also likes fantasy a lot and these sort of thing. I'm trying, to impress him because we have this kind of sibling relationship where we're being very weird with each other. So I think maybe I've won some respect over there, but no more than that. I do think that the family values I grew up with sort of drive a little bit what I write. Like, I wouldn't be comfortable, for example, writing romantic scenes and stuff because it's a thing that I didn't really enjoy reading when I was younger, or now I prefer, like good story, the relationships between people and all of that. But I think unless I wrote something extremely shocking and pervasive, that they would be absolutely fine. And they've shown interest in the work that I do. And recently I started publishing short stories whenever I can, and they seem to be enjoying what's going on there. So it's really, I didn't expect that's something I need, but all of a sudden them liking that, or commenting even on it. They don't have to like it, but every time they say, oh, I read it and I liked it, I feel it's such a, it pushes me up a bit. It's great.
Yeah, I think we all wish that our family are also our readers, no? But at least they have some interest. We want them to open the book and try to understand what is it about, because it happens sometimes that they might miss the background. Let's say if we are talking about let's say that lake in Zagreb. I mean, no one knows about that lake in Zagreb except our viewers. It's normal that they might not click with the topic, but the fact that they make an effort or they put some interest forward to know who you are and what you are doing, I think it's already something to be grateful for. Whether they like it or they agree, that's a separate matter. They don't have to. They are separate human beings. But if they appreciate and they put their schedule together to follow what you are doing, I think that's already positive. Jeroen, how do you see this black sheep or fancy status?
I kind of come from a whole family of black sheep, so it's almost like I don't know, they're all black sheep and they're all, it's like a whole family of black sheep. So it's like, for me, I don't know, maybe the thing is that I'm the white sheep. I don't know, I'm joking, but like, I suppose in our family, we've got there's a lot of artists, there's a lot of people who are very creative, and so therefore I don't feel at all like I'm the black sheep. In fact, what's happened is, well, one, it's definitely, there's a huge curiosity on their part. They want to read what I've written. Now, I haven't showed it to them yet because I don't feel that it's ready for that yet, but they're very curious about what I'm writing about and to see my viewpoint on certain things. So, and it's kind of funny because I suppose because we're sort of maybe slightly quirky, arty kind of family to a certain extent, some of us less and some of us more, it's almost like I'm finally part of the family. They're finally kind of going, now we discovered 50 years old or whatever that he's got a bit of a quirky arty side. Now his arty side is coming out, So it's almost like they nearly accept me more now. Do you know what I mean? Well, but it is funny. I think if my mum was still here, she would have been very happy to see that, I was following this path. I was only kind of writing about her today, and I think she would have been like, really, oh, finally, you know what I mean? finally his quirky side is coming out, and finally he's not so straight and narrow and not creative at all. And for a long time, actually, I actually thought that the creative gene had jumped over me and ended up in my younger sister, who's a painter. And I was like, I'm never going to be creative. This is not a creative. I'm not a creative person. So now finally, I'm becoming that person. And so it isn't really. It's a funny thing. I think it depends on the family, I presume. But I guess every family has their people who are more creative. They've got the people who are less creative in a mainstream way, but they might be creative in their own kind of way, because creativity is an amazing thing. It can be in woodwork. It can be in there's so many different facets to creativity, but definitely in my family, and it's kind of funny because it's opened some conversations, I suppose, that I didn't think were ever going to happen. It's an interesting one, because I think the fact that I am now writing has opened up certain members of my family to saying, oh, do you know what? I did a bit of writing, or I do a bit of this, or I do a bit of that. And it's become more, there's more of a topic around it, funnily enough. So it's very much not the black sheep. It's finally being fully part of this quirky, mad family that we have,
Yeah, and I think the other one is like if you are coming from a decent family, which I think are like 99% of the families out there, with the odd exception, but 99% of families, they look and they wish the best for their family members. So if you are a writer and you succeed, I'm not saying you are a bestseller, but let's say you do something out of it. You manage to write and also publish and hang out with other writers, and you are happy about your writing life, even though you don't make a huge income. It's not about that, but let's say you're happy with your writing activity, then your family is happy. If you are succeeding with your venture, it doesn't matter if it's writing, going to the next topic, music or football. As long as you are doing something out of it, then I think your family members will be supportive and thrilled to see you exploring your interests. So I think that also matters. So the second one is music impact on writing. I think that's something you brought, Jeroen. We've been discussing music quite a lot recently, or even in our private message. So there must be something coming soon in this podcast on the lines of music. I'm not going to unveil it for now, hopefully soon. But for today, we're going to stick on music impact on writing. And I know you are huge into music, so maybe you have plenty to say.
Yeah, it's a really funny thing. I'm an absolute musicaholic. I mean, I live and breathe music all day, every day, in every shape or form, whether I'm doing sport or I'm doing work around the house or I'm cooking or I'm, chopping wood or whatever the hell it is. I'm always listening to music. I'm absolutely addicted to it. I can't get enough of it, and I never will get enough of it. And it's really weird because writing is the only time when I exclude music. So it's almost like and like music in every other facet, when I'm working, in everything else that I do, literally, I go to the shower, I bring a speaker with me, right? It's that kind of, thing. But with writing, I consciously don't have music on. And I find that the few times that I have actually listened to music while writing, it hasn't helped my writing in any way, shape, or form. So it's almost like I have to be clear-headed at that point. There has to be nothing else around me, nothing else invading me while I'm writing. It's very, very, very strange. Now, I mean, what I'm writing about sometimes is influenced by music that I've listened to, or music that I am listening to, or there are certain things that may happen in a story that has been influenced to a certain extent by my love of music, but very weirdly, when writing, I've just made this thing of no music, none at all. Even down to something that has no lyrics in it, or something that's just sound. I won't turn it on because it's almost like I have to be focused only on my writing. So it's very, very strange, and it's really weird for me because it is literally possibly one of the few activities that I have in which I don't allow music to come in. It's very, very bizarre, very, very bizarre. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't influence my writing. It doesn't mean that certain either things that I've heard in the music or sometimes experiences when I've gone to gigs or I've gone to concerts or whatever else, those influence my writing, yes. But music itself is not a part of my writing, and it's a conscious thing. It's almost like it might impact my writing negatively, and I don't know it because I've only tried it once or twice and I didn't like it. I just straight away turned on the music and straight away went, no, I turned it off. And since then, I've actually completely stopped. And it's a strange thing, very, very strange. But maybe it's just I don't want to be impacted. I don't want my writing to be watered down in any way because I'm paying attention to something else. If you get me. It's almost like I have to have a very clear mind, very focus on one thing and get it done. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I used to have music at home all the time. Like let's say from the moment I wake up until I go to bed. That was my routine maybe for 10, 15 years, especially when I lived by myself. Maybe it was some sort of company, you can call it that way. And for the most time, it was jazz or some sort of instrumental music, just something to have on the background. And even when I was writing, I would still keep the music on. And I'm trying to bring it back because now I'm spending more time at home. I work for myself, so I'm not that much interacting with others during the day. So I thought maybe music would be a good thing. And I tried a couple of times recently to have music on and do something in parallel. Not only writing, even replying emails or checking, or scrolling social media. It was incompatible. It's just incompatible. I'm the same as you, Jeroen. It doesn't work anymore. And before, it was essential. Just before I pass to Maria, if you don't mind, I want to ask you this. So for you, it's incompatible to write and listen to music. But I know that you write in public spaces. And there's lots of noise. So how come that the public noise is okay, but the music is not? Do you have an explanation for that?
I don't really, but I'm going to borrow a leaf out of Maria's fantasy, thing. I like to think of it like this. I kind of build a force field around myself when I'm writing in public spaces. So on the train. And it's an active thing. It's very strange, but I've been able to, and it's almost, it's not a physical wall. Obviously, clearly, I'm not building bloody bricks on the train. It's something that I've learned how to do, and it's strange. It's a strange description even for me to actually speak about it in public is a bit weird, but okay, bear with me. I kind of have this ability to put an invisible wall in front of me, to the side of me, behind me, and to this side of me. And what that does is it shuts out sound, and it shuts out, stimulation, interference from around me. It's very strange, and I've only really started doing this since I started writing because I was like you said, I'm on a train. There's 500 people on the train. There's lots of noise and stupid idiots with phones that are like playing YouTube or whatever. I don't know, but I started to build this thing, and now I can literally, and it's really weird, I can actually feel it. Okay, I need to focus. Wall up, wall up, wall up, wall up. and I can literally shut it all out. And it's actually happened the other day where I've totally shut myself out, and I suddenly went, Jesus, I'm past Bray, I'm nearly into Greystones. the whole train journey had passed completely, and I was totally focused. And it was a noisy carriage, and it was only when I allowed the wall to come back down that I suddenly went, God, there's a lot of noise in here, and there's loads of students and people chatting, and but I've been sitting there for 50 minutes, guys, with no stimulation from outside. Very strange, but I like it because it shuts everything down and it allows me to focus. So that's what it is. It's, I don't know.
Could you teach me that? I cannot do that.
So Jeroen, you are great at building the wall. If Trump listens to you, you're gonna be hired by the Trump administration.
There's only one problem there, because it's an invisible wall, so he'd still have to see Mexico. You know what I mean?
Still maybe smell the Mexican food, so it won't be enough. But it's a well-paid job. Like, I would go for it. So she's a well-paid job, so why not? The comment here, just before I pass to Maria, from our friends who I want to thank, because he or she are being very dynamic. So I hope others can also write their comments. And this person is saying, music can influence your writing in different directions than you planned. It could be bad or good, depends if you are looking for inspiration. Maybe I leave that comment with you, Maria.
Yeah, no, I could not agree with this more. I think music can be a fantastic tool, or it can be very, very restrictive if you let it take you wherever it goes instead of wherever your mind wants to go. Yeah, and also looking at the new comment, yeah, I have some dreams that if I wake up and I write down, it helps me, because I think if I've happened to think of what I'm writing, then you know how things that happen to you during the day, they can have some power in your sleep. So I find myself that sometimes the inspiration comes from a dream I had. But going back to music, it's the first time in this podcast series where I've been so further away from you guys. I love music. It is not as present in my daily life as it used to be. I used to be exactly like the kind of person I would not go a minute without music around me. I do not want it as much. I do not crave it as much in my daily life now. I have to have it when I'm writing.
Wow.
It is really important to me. Yeah, I think it's because I don't have your fantastic wall building expertise and I'm really susceptible to sounds. Which
you
is
won't be hired by Trump. Sorry, Maria.
No, you're crashing.
You have to wait another 3 years for the man to be out of office. Yeah.
I'll go work for Mexico, break the wall down. No, I am very susceptible to what happens around me. Like, I've caught myself, someone talking to me, and without me realizing, I've shut down and I'm not listening to what's going on anymore. But I put on gaming music usually because that's, instrumental, it's meaningful, it has highs, it has lows. It's a very specific kind within the extremely wide variety that gaming music is. And on the other hand, I cannot have any sounds when I read. So when I write, I need it. When I read, I cannot have it. It takes the focus completely away. But when I'm writing, even if there's lyrics in the music, it does not affect me. But I usually start by saying I have a scene, I have something going on, and I know a piece that fits it. And sometimes I will write a scene on a song, or I will choose a song for inspiration because, okay, I'm not sure. I need I need the atmosphere, I need the clashing of swords, I need the screams, I need the whatever is going on. So it's worked both ways, but I find it extremely difficult to write without music. Not that I will not, but I feel I have to have it if I want to see something good and productive and not being bored during it. Because sometimes I've happened to, being bed, I had an idea of something, I'm scribbling down on my phone, and sometimes it has gotten rather far, but I don't enjoy it. I feel I need to have the music to sort of inspire me and take me where I need to go. And I don't feel very often that it's driving me to somewhere I don't need to go. But then again, I am very selective with the kind of music that I hear. I wouldn't put on a radio station, for example. I want to be in complete control over what is happening to my ears when I'm writing. But yeah, I think this is the most I've like disagreed with you two on anything.
Finally.
Yeah, you think we're just making it up with how similar we are? We just finally one thing that we do not see eye to eye at all.
No, this is all spontaneous here. We are all natural. And as a matter of fact, we are planning to do this live, so there won't be any pretending. Everything is going to be as fluent as it is when you are face to face. So for the viewers, we are planning to do this live in the next few months. We're not having where and when, but that date will come sooner than later. Comment here from another person, and it's good to see people reacting on the comments box, and with good music taste, I have to say. Music definitely took me to weird places in my Joy Division and the Smiths era. Are you a fan of Joy Division and the Smiths, Maria, or not really?
No, I was hoping you'd pass that question to Jeroen, so I will look more musically educated than I am.
Jeroen, then it's the stage is yours.
Yeah, I can imagine that Joy Division would take you to some strange places, some maybe dark places. Smiths too. There, I mean, I like some, like both of those, but they wouldn't be in my. But they have some strange dark places to go to. But yeah, it's really weird how I don't use music, and I'm glad to hear, Maria, that you do use music when you write, because like it is such a cool inspiration for so many other things. But for some reason when I write, and actually funnily, when you said about reading, I can't listen to music when reading either. I actually can't, because then I'm not focused on what I'm reading. And I love reading, but it's got to be without music. So it seems like for me, reading and writing are in the same bracket. Of course, they're in the same bracket. But what I'm saying is that it's something that I cannot have external stimulation when I'm doing at all.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Like what I like about the fact that I enjoy music when I'm writing is that the combination sometimes, like I was reading a short story the other day, and it was, taking place in an abbey at night, one monk going out, checking all the doors and locks and all of that. And I was listening to the soundtrack from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is like, Viking raids and all this sort of modern music, Odin's Halls, la 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 la. And it's very interesting to me how you can pair up one thing with another, because those are pretty much in the same sort of scale. Like, the kind of era that I was writing in, you would have seen a Viking raid, for example, but sometimes it's very weird pairings. And it's something I'm very interested in exploring. How weird can I get? Like you're writing, I don't know, a death scene, and you have, I don't know, something completely weird in the background, or having, people finding together again. It's a happy atmosphere, and I'm listening to Dead Can Dance Persephone. This is like, I don't know, it's very fun to see the match, I guess. And why is my brain not following the music, and why exactly is it that I'm taking from this piece that seems so relevant to what I'm writing that's helping me? Actually, I'd like to explore more. I think maybe I'll have some funny stories going on forwards, because it is getting weirder and weirder the more I write, and sometimes I don't want to listen to the same music. So yeah, maybe I'll have a good topic for another podcast on where the weird music has taken me.
I'm bringing Trump back to the scene, and this is not about the YMCA, so people can stay on the other side. I'm not going to dance YMCA here. I might do that on a Friday night after a few drinks, but not tonight. Don't worry. Did you watch the Sacha Cohen movie RVG? I think it was one of the first.
Oh yeah. Long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So not know if you recall, but at some point he interviewed Trump, and Trump back then was just a businessman, very successful, whether shady or not, that's for others to judge. And AVG is trying to come up with a business idea that will flourish. So for that purpose, he interviews Trump because Trump has been doing very well in many aspects of business. So he asks Trump, what is the thing that everyone loves? Because he wants to go for something that people are into, which is, I think, a good beginning. And Trump, in my opinion, answers very well. He says music. Like most people love music. It's very rare that there is someone that is not into music. So I think Trump had a valid answer. Then AVG replied, no, it's ice cream.
He has a point. He has a point.
That's a point, yeah.
Maybe do a poll in another episode. What do you think people like most, music or ice cream?
I can ask the viewers if you can put on the comments. What do you think is what people are more? No, who was right, Trump or AVG? You can reply like that. It's better for the algorithm. You can just say Trump or AVG. You know, fine. Or Trump or Sasha Cohen. So please, if you can put that on the comments. So, or music or ice cream. I think it's music. And actually, I find it weird. And I had this conversation with my father. My father doesn't like music. He's okay with certain bands. He's okay with certain styles, but he would never get out of the house to attend a gig. He will never switch on the TV or the radio to listen to music. If, let's say, he's driving and there is music playing, in his favorite radio station, fine. But he's not really into music. And I ask him why. He says it just doesn't click, which is very, very weird. Very, very weird. And I had a girlfriend many, many, many years ago who was the same. She was not into music. Well, we went to a Leonard Cohen concert together. She enjoyed. She had a great time. But she was like my father. She could live without music. She could set aside music for the rest of her life. For me, it was almost like, I cannot imagine that. Yeah.
I would take it a little further, Vitor. I've met some people over the many years who have said to me, yeah, I don't get music. And I immediately can't trust that person.
That is a sane reaction.
I immediately have you're untrustworthy. I can't, you know what I mean? I'm sorry, but this conversation is now over. Bye.
Someone just replied the poll. They say, definitely the 99, but music is more realistic. We're not going to do an episode on ice cream. I don't think that's very interesting.
Oh, come on. No, I'm sure we get a lot of comments on an ice cream episode.
I think we would, all right. I actually think we would, but yeah. Another night, maybe.
Ice cream night.
We could eat ice cream while doing the podcast. I mean, it's just, we're doing an ice cream challenge. I don't know where you want to take it. Maybe we'll want to be ultra weird one day.
That's allowed. That's allowed on YouTube. You can eat ice cream, but you're supposed to stay away from alcohol. That's the only thing. So you need to make sure that there's nothing on the bottle that is suspicious. But that's not the case. That's not the case. I actually want to say that I had a medieval philosophy professor back in university who would run a few exercises with us, and one that I never forget was what was the thing that you could remove from your life that you'll be okay with, and he would ask us, would you rather be blind or deaf? Would you rather be able would you rather stop being able to smell or stop being able to hear? And he would come up with examples like, can you imagine not seeing the sea? Can you imagine not smelling the sea? What would be a bigger pain for you? And I just want to link that to music. Like, we are all writers here, but I think we're all very much music fans. And I'm going to be honest. If I have to choose between not enjoying music for the rest of my life or don't have any contact with books, I would happily set aside the books, because music, it's an absolute must. Absolute, at least reading. I don't know if I could live without writing, although I found now other ways of communicating, but not listening to music, I think is a very serious punishment.
I would 100% agree with you. I think there's probably an awful lot of things that I would give up first before I would give up music. And I don't think I could. In fact, I can tell you straight up, I there's no way that I could last. I mean, I can't last an hour without listening to music. How would I last like a year? Just wouldn't happen. Just wouldn't. It's almost I suppose people who have an addiction to drugs. I don't have an addiction to drugs, but I do have an addiction to music, and I have to have it. It's got to be there in some way, shape, or form. But I will not, and I won't go a day without listening to me, an hour. There's just no way. So I think there's a lot of things that I would very easily give up before. And to answer your question, would I rather be, let's say, blind or deaf? Well, I can tell you straight off, blind, I would take that, no problem. But if I was deaf, I'd have a real problem,
No, I think the same as well. And being the least musical person in our little group, I think that when you asked that question, it really intrigued me, and I thought, okay, imagine I'm close, eyes closed, I'm listening to music, how it makes me feel, and then I imagine if I go to the seaside, for example, I can't hear. It's not the same experience. I would much rather not been able to see, but because the emotions that you feel with music, you would not as easily get it by looking at things, unless it's like a loved one, a person of your someone from your family. But I think having lived for so many years with vision, I would sacrifice it instead of my hearing. And also being like my whole career, my studies, everything had to do with languages. I am addicted to the sound of languages. I could not go without a text. Although I love reading and love writing, when it comes to foreign languages, it does not mean as much to me as listening to the language does. So I would really, really miss that if I could not hear a language anymore, especially languages that I'm not familiar with or I don't speak myself, but I'm always intrigued by the difference of them, the weirdness, the allure of them, whatever, it is for every language. But it would be difficult for me. I don't think I'd give up my side very easily, but between the two of them, it's an easy choice for me as well. I don't think life would be the same if you walked around and you couldn't hear a thing.
Yeah, I remember back in the secondary school, we were instructed to write an essay on the meaning of life. That was in the philosophy subject, which was my favorite. As a weirdo, no? And they said, okay, you need to write an essay about the meaning of life. We don't want your answer. We want you to look for a group and explore that group's answer to the meaning of life. And I picked heavy metal because I was crazy for heavy metal. And I used as a, I think I put it in my cover. I don't remember where, but somewhere in the essay, a Nietzsche quote, which is, life without music would be a massive mistake, something like that. I can't remember now what's the exact translation. And that's very telling, how much music is impacting, for deep thinkers like the likes of Nietzsche. Nietzsche was absolutely mad for music, and he was upset with music decay already in 19th century, how music was going in the wrong direction. Actually, Nietzsche was, in my opinion, he was a genius. He predicted a lot of the bad shit that happened in the 20th century. When he said 20th century is the century of bloodshed and cruelty and all that, he was right. The death of God, he was right. Music and culture degenerating, he was right. He forecasted. He said a lot of outrageous things, like Andrew Tate, but he also said things that make sense. So he was one of those that I'm pretty sure if he would have to choose between being able to writing for the rest of his life or music being removed from his existence, he would keep music no matter what. He was absolutely mad for music, and that's very, very telling. Did you ever think about playing an instrument? I know you are a DJ, Jeroen. Maybe you can explore that. How does that mingle with writing?
How does it mix with writing, or?
Yep. Yeah, between writing and DJing, is there any intersection?
No, not really for me. I think, yeah, it's almost like I have it in different sections, So, like, DJing is one thing and I love it and I love doing it. It's amazing, and I love writing, but I have it in very different sections. It's almost like never the twain shall meet. Let's put it like that, you know. Yeah, it's two different, very very different things. And I suppose when you're DJing, it's quite live. It's quite, it's happening right now. It's you're looking at the interaction of the people. You're wondering, are you on, the right beat? Where are you going next? You're always thinking, where are you going next? Writing is almost like, well, that's happening, but it's happening not so live, if you like, and it's only you and the writing. At that point when you are writing, it's only you and that thing that you're writing. So you're not getting that feedback. You're not getting that kind of, looking for that interaction. You look for the interaction later on when somebody reads your work, but it's a different type of thing. So it's almost like I have a very much segregated, and like Maria as well. I love languages, and I love learning languages. And another thing that's segregated. So music is one, writing is another, learning a language is a completely other one. You know what I mean? So I have very segregated views on it, and it doesn't really interact with one another, weirdly enough, despite the fact that you would think it would. But maybe that's just my brain, how my brain works. But I keep those kind of passions, let's say, apart. They are a different thing for me. And I mean, it's interesting, because at the moment, like I'm looking into also making music. Right now, I have never played. I've dabbled a little bit with playing an instrument, but very very badly, and it was painful for everybody, including myself. And it's something that I've always would have liked to have done, is played an instrument, but it's not going to happen now. I'm too old for it. But I am now dabbling with, kind of programs that you can make music with, and I'm doing some little recordings for myself, really, just playing around with sound and trying to, and that's quite interesting, because in making the music, it's a little bit like writing, not DJing. DJing is different, but making your own music, I suppose, is a little bit like writing, because you're kind of going, right, where would I like to go with that now? Where with writing, you're like, where am I going with the story? With making music, it's almost like, where am I going with this sound? How am I going to keep that sound interesting? What is that sound going to be? Yeah. So then those two would come together and I presume that if I was a musician, somebody who actually makes music, I mean, I'm just messing around with it. It's something I like to play around with. But if I was actually a musician, I presume I would then have a correlation between that and writing, so songwriting, for example, but also just making the actual music. And I found, interestingly, that when I'm doing that with that program and I'm making a new sort of song, between inverted commas, the feeling I get and the process I get is quite the same as writing. So then you do have a connection, yes. But for instance, for DJing, because it's live, it's right happening now, you're improvising, you're going with the flow, you're finding a little moment or whatever it is. You're also looking at the crowd very carefully, you're studying them, you're seeing, are they enjoying it, are they dancing, are they moving, all that kind of stuff. So it's very much a live happening, so then it's not the same as writing, but it's an interesting question. It's an interesting thing. I segregate them, and yeah, it's something that I would have thought there would be more connection between, but funnily enough, there's not. But again, in messing around with making my own music, that's the same now. I'm starting to feel that same, I can shut out everything and I can look and listen. Okay, what's that sound? What's the, where would I like to go with this?
Yeah. Just to me, music was the beginning. Not exactly playing an instrument, but writing lyrics. I started to write poems as a result of writing lyrics for songs. So they are interconnected, and there's no way around. But I was lucky enough to have a mentor back in those days who was telling me, okay, there is common ground between writing a poem and writing a song or a lyrics for a song, but you have to keep in mind that there is no music in between. So the poem needs to be much more independent, needs to make the music by itself, because there's no music on it. It's the poem needs to be complete. Let's say it needs to integrate the pace and of the music, even though there are no instruments around. So that's something to consider. But let's move to nature, because that's something I want to explore as well. And I think nature is usually massive for the majority of writers. I find nature a place of inspiration and renovation. And I would like to know, Maria, how would you perceive nature yourself?
Yeah, I was very lucky because my parents did a lot of things for us when we were younger. And one of the things that I'm most grateful for is that we would go up to my grandpa's village up the mountains, and they'd bring out a telescope, and my dad would teach us the name of the stars and of the planets and how to locate them and all of that. And they would take us on hikes in the forest, and we'd got, I don't know if you remember those kind of rectangular long notebooks that had like rice paper and normal page underneath, and you could stick leaves on it and the rice paper would protect them from damage. And thinking back how the 90s were a lovely time when films used to be like this, and they had the that cylinder case, and we'd put acorns in those cases. My dad also was a great photographer, so he'd always had leftover cases for us to put acorns and seeds and stuff on. And I find that getting back to nature is extremely therapeutic, and tying it with writing, I feel I am missing a lot by having lost that knowledge of the stars and of the names of the plants and how the leaves look and the different, like leaves even make different sounds. It's not something that you think about every day, but sometimes the rustling of it is different depending on the kind of tree, or like, you're approaching a stream, for example, because the nature around you changes and there's different underbrush, or, all of those things. And I think when it comes to writing in the fantasy spectrum that I am now, you cannot write fantasy, I think, without nature. There's got to be environment, whether it is what people go to seek solace, or sometimes, the forest is a big problem. Sometimes it's what gives a little village life, or, the actions and the hobbies and everything that have to do with nature are so vast that I would find it extremely hard to write, for example, for a place that had no nature around it. Even if it's just, steampunk, everything is metal and whatnot, there would still be something equivalent, I think, to define nature, whether that is even cliffs or how the air smells. You can't avoid all those things. But I think that's it. It's massive inspiration. I would love to just take a notebook and go in the forest one day and just sit down and say, let's see what I can do. Perhaps without music, but I'm not so sure about that. But listening to the sounds of the forest and trying to imagine what happens in a place like this, or how a character would move about, what are the things that they would notice, what are the things that would give you pause, the kind of different animals that you can find in the forest, or in by the sea or whatever. So I think as people, but also as writers, it's good to find ourselves in nature. It also reminds you what's important, or it's a very grounding experience, I think, to just see yourself. And I had this conversation with a very close friend of mine yesterday, actually, how, when you think how small you are compared to the universe, or how you can lose yourself in nature, it's things that I think hone our personalities and our skills, and it's great stress relief. And when I read myself, it really plays a big role in how I'm enjoying my reading, to see that in between of someone walks somewhere, the sounds of the forest, what happens. I feel it's necessary as an in between action as well. How would you define the place where people live? Nature defines us as well. Mountain people are different than sea people. And, without wanting to sound very stereotypical, it does play a role in how you behave, especially back in the day where we weren't so connected with technology. So I'm actually determined that when I come back from this trip to Greece, I will explore Irish nature more, and see how that affects my writing, because I do love it as a concept. I do love it as a theme. A lot of my favorite mythology has to do, and being Greek as well, of course, a lot of our mythology has to do with creatures of the forest or of the sea. One of our major gods was the god of the sea as well, being an island country and all of that. So it's definitely a center of gravity for me, if you want to call it that. I want to revolve around it. I want it to influence my writing more, and even the sound of it, not the sounds that you'd expect, like the leaves or everything, the something repetitive of the clack 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 that an animal makes when it moves around. It can influence the music in writing as well, going back to music a little bit there, because I think how you pace yourself in your writing can be influenced by natural phenomena or by an experience. Is it fast because something is happening? Is it calm? And a lot of the expressions that we use come from, how the sea moves or how the stars are and how all of that. So I think they're very, very closely connected. So both as a person and an aspiring writer, I think I cannot be without nature as much as I don't want to be without music.
Yeah, you raise a very interesting point when you mentioned that nature ground us, and it's a humbling exercise. When you look at let's say mountain or the sea, those two things are there to stay, and you are not. I mean, you cannot even compare a lifespan to the lifespan of a mountain, or let alone the sea. No, you are nothing in comparison to those to those entities. So that reminds you, I think, of what matters, what you should prioritize in your life, and that's all. That's all it takes to start massive and deep introspection and connect to your core. So I think nature plays, as you said, a massive role in self-exploration, and there's no better start to write than to try to understand who we are and what are we here for. So nature is absolutely essential. I just want to ask another poll here. I want to ask the viewers, what would they prefer if they have to choose, sea or woods? Let's say sea or woods. So if they can, no wall this time, just sea or woods, okay? Please don't cheat. Sea or woods. There's nothing related to Mexico or anything like that. Sea or woods. So people, I'll be very pleased if you can put yours. And Jeroen, I also want to hear from you.
So I'll answer C straight off. Anyway, I'm addicted to the sea. Yeah, I think for me, not only is nature like a huge inspiration in my writing, in terms of I like to reflect the nature of a certain area, say, or a certain, like in the fiction work that I'm writing, it's set in Montana. Have I ever been to Montana? No, but I've seen a lot of the scenery there, and I'm trying to put some of that scenery in. I think the other thing that I realized the other day when we were talking about this as a subject was that a lot of the writers that I really like to read, right, have described nature amazingly, right? So there's, sentences that still stand out in my mind years later, and they describe the leaves in an autumn, an autumn scene in like, I don't know, New England, right? and the colors of the leaves are being described by the writer. And it's, the person is walking along the road and they're writing, they're seeing all these colors. And so it's not just an inspiration for me in my writing. And like Maria said, it's a very good grounding exercise as well. It's that kind of thing of literally being able to stop, take everything away from you and go into nature for a few minutes. I happened to have been camping this weekend and woke up early in the morning, because you're in a tent and, that's what happens. And I could hear, before the birds started to sing, I could hear them starting to move. And I actually made myself stay awake to start to hear that dawn chorus. And you're camping, so you have there's no, you're right in it. You hear it. And it was incredible. And I actually asked myself the question, how long ago is it since I've heard something that amazing? And so nature, it's incredible. And it's so varied, and there's so many different aspects to it, and it changes all the time as well. And to find peace, I think you have to be in nature. That's just that's my estimation of it. And I would say as well, nature for me, the sea is incredible. I love it in all its aspects. And to really find peace and to step outside of yourself and the day-to-day grind and all that kind of stuff, you need to be in nature. And I've always found a writer who can describe nature really well. That attracts me to a writer. So a particular style of writer. There's a writer years ago called Wilbur Smith. He wrote loads of books about South Africa, and I loved them when I was a teenager and a young adult. But the way he described the nature in Africa was exquisite. You felt you were there. You could smell it. You could hear it. You could feel yourself actually being in it. And that's what it is to me. And if you can, a writer, not everybody can, but a writer who can get that and get that kind of, bring that feeling, smell, sensation, hearing, all those things into a piece of writing, they've nailed it in my book. And that's where it's like a double whammy, if you like. I love to be in nature. I love to be surrounded by nature. I'm very much at peace in nature. I try to bring some of that into what I write, but also I absolutely love when somebody describes a natural scene and it's got me smelling, seeing, hearing, that is writing for me. That's I'd strive to be able to become a writer like that, who can describe a natural scene and somebody really feels like they're. That's, and if I ever achieve that, then I've done it for me. Then I'm there. And that's what nature is to me. And we're lucky in Ireland as well that we can surround ourselves with nature a lot. And it doesn't take long to get there. You don't have to go very far. You don't have to travel for hours, all that kind of stuff. You can travel for 15 minutes and be in a completely different place, and you don't hear anything to do with people, or you just hear the forest or the river or the waterfall or it's magical. And if I ever get to that point, then I've achieved. Then I'm happy. You know what I mean? That kind of description of nature that brings you there. Because I think that's the key to writing. The reader has to go along the path of that the writer wants to bring them on, and feel all that. That's what reading is to me. And if I can get some little element of that into my writing, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
In that note, I actually call a poet. I was just looking for his name in the original language, but I'm going to say it in English. His name was Georg. I try to say it, Georg Trakl. He was Austro-Hungarian, and he lived in the. He lived a very short life. He was born in 1887, died. He committed suicide in 1914, and he was mostly a poet. Okay, and his poems are, for the most part, about nature. Of course, he uses nature as a way to express his feelings. I say he's not talking about spring or autumn. He's describing what he sees outside of his window, but of course, that's a reflection of what he is experiencing himself as a human being, and he's absolutely spot on. So I really recommend that poet. When I was younger, around maybe around 20, I was still trying to find my own voice, and I was told, look for that guy because he can express what he thinks or feels without being too personal. And he was mad about nature, so he is one to read. Just before I pass to you, Maria, they have a comment. Someone replied my poll. I'm very happy. And they say that's a tricky question. There's no seaside from where I'm from. Plenty of forest, though, and grew up in that environment. I would miss that more. Albeit the seaside in Ireland is extremely calming. I'd say this person, who I don't know who it is, to be honest, I don't know who it's she or he. I'd say this person lives in Ireland, but it's an expert. I would say, and I would be keen to hear from him or her, that this person misses forest because it was part of his or her childhood. So there is something about the early days that this person is craving. Maybe he or she can reply. But the same question to you, Maria: sea or woods?
Interestingly enough, for me at least, was that I always thought I was a sea person from, because of where I'm from and everything. I found the sea an extremely pleasant place to be in. And still, one of my favorite things to experience is walking by the sea in winter. Not in the summer as much. During the winter, I feel the cold, and knowing that if that splashes into my face, I'm going to feel the ice that it is. But I found out at some point in my life that I actually prefer the forest. And I'll tell you what, I think when you're standing anywhere near the sea, you could be seen from everywhere. You're just a figure standing and the sea in front of you. I feel in the forest, you become invisible. You can move like an animal. You can crunch leaves. You can have more of an direct hands-on experience, more of an engaging experience with the forest. So I still really love the sea, but I think I'd really lose myself in the forest if I can hide, if I can observe, because the sea, it's extremely beautiful. I love the way the waves move, especially if, it's not, there's a little bit of a wave and a little bit of a foam, especially here in Ireland, how it crashes against the cliffs and everything, and you can hear it or you can expect it, and you're, waiting for that sound to hit and all of that. But I think the forest is where you can really lose yourself, and it's more, I think perhaps for humans, I find it more related to our roots than the seas. I think the sea came at a time where we needed to explore, where we needed to move on to the next thing. But I do think we'd all started like from a forest. So to me, it feels more close to my roots, pun not intended. But I did, for the longest time, prefer the sea. And now I think it says a lot about a person when they know which of the two they prefer, even trying to find the reasons behind this preference, and not just, sea reminds me of the summer because we can go sea swimming and stuff. Like, you dig deep inside you and you try to figure out, what is my preference, what speaks to me. It was very interesting for me how I found out as well, because I like putting dilemmas on myself. So I love what we started doing in this, where there's polls for so many things, like the kind of lose your sight or lose your hearing, sea or forest and stuff like that. And I'm arguing against myself over things. It's how I found out a lot of things about myself. And I caught myself doing that at some point. And I thought, no, it's the forest for me. Very shocking, to go on most of my life thinking that I can't live away from the sea. And now I live in Ireland and I can have both at such a little travel time. It's so different than when I'm from, because the nature here is absolutely wild. It's just so incredible to experience it. And a social commentary, if you permit it, I do feel that one of the worst things modern society and all the bad news we hear on our TVs and see on our phones has done to us, you don't hear, at least I don't, a lot of people speaking about nature anymore, saying, oh, I went on a trip, or let's meet. Where did let's meet by the sea go? We always meet each other at cafes, at restaurants. We don't go on picnics anymore. It's just, I feel that it's a thing that pushes us away from nature, and the further away from nature we are, the more close we are to, I don't know, consumerism or depression and all like that. So I feel all of those things tie closely together. And I would like to read, I'll look around to read one of those, perhaps dystopian stories or whatever, where nature is really not a thing anymore, and how, but the process of it being lost, not we're so far in the future that it's a thing of the past, like how it affects us day by day if it starts to really being lost much faster than it already is, I guess. Like how would we survive that, really?
Yeah, that's interesting what you just mentioned. And the other thing is, people would meet by the sea on a cafe or on a bar just for the sea view, but it has to, there is a necessity of having some degree of premises by the nature. It's not enough just to meet at the seafront. There must be a bar or even a kiosk with a few tables. The sea won't make it. It's not enough to for 2 or 3 people to meet. But I would also acknowledge what you just said and totally relate myself. There's nothing better than walking on the seaside when it's winter, because there's much more intimacy, night and day. And here in Ireland, the weather is not exactly Mediterranean or anything like that. So we have, kind of a cold season for at least 6 months. It's a privilege, Like in Portugal, it's not like that. In Portugal, there is sun maybe 320 days a year. So if you want to go for a walk yourself in the sea, good luck with that. There's always someone there, There's always someone there. If not, you go on winter, then another winter weirdo like myself and Maria. So there's no place for intimacy.
Just pull me out.
If it's in Ireland,
wave at each other from the beaches. Meet the two people.
I think next time I'm walking by the sea in winter and it's here in Wicklow, I'm gonna say, Maria, how are you? I'm sure it's you.
I would take it a little further. I would say that there's nothing better than walking by the sea or near the sea when there's a storm happening. So in the middle of a storm, like real proper wild waves, wind, the whole lot, right? And you've got, like, you're wrapped up, you've got your coat on, whatever else, and you are facing the elements at their absolute best. And I gain power from that. It's incredible. I feel just amazing. This amazing feeling of that's nature. That's really nature. So not only being in the winter, but being a winter and a storm, that's like, wow.
And I also enjoy the distance between myself and the sea. Like I don't swim. Again, I'm really a weirdo. I don't swim. And I like the idea that I'm just staring at the sea. And there's a degree of respect between myself and the sea. Like, we don't touch each other. We are engaging, but there's no real interaction. Like the sea is not tangible. Let's put it like that. So I can experience it, but I cannot touch it with my bare hands. So it's a different sort of communication. And I think that also triggers a lot of emotions and thoughts, because you cannot come too close. So you need to figure it out. What is it on the other side? So that's a whole process of thinking, of creating, of imagination. And I love it. And the same, apologies. And the same with mountains. Like, let's say if they are too high, and you have, like, I'm not a big hiker. I can hike like a regular person. And I like the idea of contemplating it from where I am. It's a sort of worship, let's put it like that. And again, reminding me of who I am, my limitations, and make the most of what I can achieve in this planet and in this life. And that's a great exercise to go back to your daily routines and again prioritize what should be done first. Music, not ice cream.
No, but you're right. It isn't. If it's completely two completely different experiences. If you're just going to the sea, but you're not going in and you're just watching it, or if you're looking at the mountain but you have no intention of climbing, it's a completely different thing. If you're actually climbing the mountain, you put your feet in the sea. It's very. I like the picture you paint with the worship. It makes it feel very magical just to witness it and give it power, I guess, by not directly touching it or interacting with it. It feels like it is a form of respect. I never thought about it like that, but it is like the way you were talking about it. You make me feel it's like I acknowledge that you're stronger than me. I acknowledge that I'm very little in front of you and I have no power over you. As just a single person, it's in, when science comes in and everything, very interesting stuff. But as a single person, no control over those things. You're completely, they tell you what to do. They can be mad, they can drown you, they can make you fall down, they can tower over you and give you shade. It's just very, very respectful, I guess, exactly as you put it, to just bear witness to it only.
Yeah. And even if you go in and you swim, you'll never be able to unveil all the secrets. Right? You might dive, you might see some parts of the sea, but there's so much in the sea that you maybe be able to see not even 1%. And you have to respect that.
Yeah, you have to respect that big time. Yeah, absolutely, big time. I found that in the past, when I've lived in places, I've lived in a lot of places, and when I've lived in places that are not near the sea, I've often felt a miss, and I didn't know quite what the miss was until later I discovered that it was because I wasn't near the sea. So it's such a big part of my life that I need to be near it in some way, shape, or form. And I found that a very weird thing to have to be close to something in some way, like, and to have it in, and then if it's there, it's like, well, that's fine, it's there, it's close, I can deal with it. But having it far away is very kind of, I don't know, strange. Yeah. And I like that image that you just made as well, Vitor, and I think you described it perfectly as worship. I keen to understand that, because I suppose I always worship, let's say, the sea by being in it, or by swimming in it, or by whatever, diving off rocks, whatever it is, or I go hike in the mountains, and I like that. But I really think that's unusual, to be able to admire something from afar and admire it for what it is, but to still be slightly distant from it. So it must be a totally different mindset.
Yeah. Let's just wrap up with writing updates, if you don't mind, just that the viewers will know what are you working on at the moment. I think we didn't go through that the last two occasions, so maybe we can share something new. Maybe Maria, you mentioned that you're publishing some short stories. Where people can find them?
Oh, that's very good of you to ask. I'm publishing on Readsy actually at the moment. So I publish there with my real name and surname. So if you're interested and you type my name and REEDSY.com, you'll find some of my stories there, and they've completely derailed my main projects. For the past couple of months, I am only writing short stories. So no progress whatsoever of the main things, but I do feel I am honing my skills, and I do feel I'm learning so much, because there is a website, they have prompts every week. So they give you 5 different prompts under a similar thematic, and then you have to write for these prompts. So being forced to write under a specific author, I found it very interesting, because, before that I would do whatever I fancied. But I find that I may actually use some of that or some of the ideas behind some of the stories I've published, or even the published stories themselves in my main writing. And I do feel I'm getting better bit by bit. And it's a very different sort of progress than what I've noticed when I was working on my main projects, because it's a different thing every week, and I'm publishing a new one almost every week. Again, very different thematics. I'm even exploring some genres that I'm not very familiar with. And yeah, that's what's going on at the moment. I don't feel great about leaving my main projects behind, because at this rate I feel I'm stuck and they'll never get finished. But I am writing something, so some progress I want to believe has been made.
Yeah, I wrote, it was yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. I wrote an article about last Cork City game in Dublin. Unfortunately, the result was not something to celebrate. Another defeat, 3-0. It's a defeat after defeat, not the happiest season. But I tried to make it fun for the reader, at least. So I tried not to talk too much about how sad I was with what happened on the pitch. I tried to make it somehow satirical, let's put it that way. So it's not published because I'm not collaborating with LOI Talk anymore for some other reasons that are not football related. But hopefully in the future I can compile all my Cork City articles in a book, and that could be available to the public. That's something I aspire to complete maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, and hopefully with more Cork City positive results. Jeroen.
Yeah, I'm still struggling. Well, struggling. I'm still writing 2 books at the same time. One being a work of fiction, and the other being, basically the story of my life. I've had a fairly unusual life, and a lot of people told me you should write that down. So that's what I'm kind of working on at the moment. And at the moment as well, I'm finding that I'm now getting, like Maria was saying, through the process of writing, I'm getting inspiration into other things. And I find myself now kind of going, oh, I'd love to start a project on this or in this direction or in that direction, or, but I'm being very, I'm like, no, finish the first 2 projects before you get anything else started. Just let's be disciplined about it. And I'm not allowing myself to write other things, but I am making sort of little notes here and there on certain things that I'd like to tackle in the future. But those are my 2 main works at the minute, that I'm working on. And I'm hoping that maybe by next year, one, if not both, will be finished. And yeah, that's another reason why I'm not allowing myself to work on anything else, because I'm going, well, then they're never going to get finished. It's going to be.
You have all the discipline that I like. You have discipline for 2 people, and maybe that's why I have none. It's a way for the universe to balance itself. I'm like a little puppy. Oh, there's a tennis ball. Oh, there's a branch. Oh, there's a human. Everything that's new, I'm kind of attracted to. So I think the short stories is a good thing for me at the time, because it feeds off exactly what you described, the interest in something else. All right, something different, and then it's a short-term thing, so I can go back to the main thing. Yeah, well, definitely. Every time we speak about your progress, I'm like, dear God, I haven't done anything.
But Maria, you're progressing anyway. That's the thing. I think it's about writing, and
it's just not linear.
But like, it doesn't have to be one particular thing or whatever. Like, I think it's great that you're bringing out a story every week. That's brilliant, because it'll make your writing of your main piece, when you go back to it, better, because you're improving it. So, whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're writing, you're writing, and that can only make things go forward sometime,
It's a really nice way to explore your abilities as well. So thank you for saying that and not letting me feel horrible. But it is, especially I think if you're a new writer, definitely try something like that. It's really interesting to see it. And if you feel like you don't have new inspiration, which I don't have every week, just getting or listening to these conversations as well, you might get ideas on different things. So you might get inspiration from something about writing and start writing, like use them as a prompt or something. I think it's a great way for a new writer to start interacting with things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very hopeful that these conversations that we have, that somebody out there in the ether is watching them and going, do you know what? I'm going to write. And do it. Go out and do it. Write. Whatever it is you're doing, just write. I cannot recommend it enough. And specifically because the three of us are not, well, you are, Vitor, but we're not massively published writers or anything like that. We're going through all that process of starting it out and how do we get ideas and inspiration and all that kind of stuff. I really hope one day that we hear from one of our viewers, do you know what? I went and I started writing. That's done then for me. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I like about this podcast. That's what I like about working with the two of you, is that I'm exploring a whole new part of my life, the writing part. And I hope that one person will turn around and go, do you know what? I'm going to do that. That's cool. I like it. I'll try it. Because I can guarantee you, a little bit more than a year ago, if somebody said to me that I was spending every day doing writing, I'd go, nope, never. And I'm flipped around completely. Now I'm totally into it, and it can give you so much, and it's such a wonderful thing for yourself and for those around you, but for yourself as well to write. So I would say to anybody, go and start it. That's it.
Mm.
So
Cheers.
I will also encourage the viewers for other challenge here. If they have any topic for us to discuss next time, they can put it in the comments. Okay, I will just blacklist two. One is ice cream, another one is Trump hair. Other than those two, we are okay with everything. Okay. So,
I like that. I like that idea. That's good.
Yeah. Let's see.
Just to recap. So no ice cream, Trump's hair, and Jeroen's hair. There's another one. We cannot discuss Jeroen's hair. So that's a no. Sorry.
Jeroen's hair is perfect to watch a storm by the sea, because what am I going to do with that? So kudos to Jeroen's hair.
I love it.
Plenty of inspiration for a story. I think after this, people have plenty of inspiration to start writing.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
I think they got the spark. So guys, thank you very much again for insights. It was great fun to go through family, music, nature, and some ice creams and wars in between. So that was really good. I hope the viewers enjoyed. They were quite dynamic this time, which is great. We want this to be dialogue, not just between the three of us, but including people who are watching us. So chat box is open. If any topic, make sure to put it in the comments. Actually, I just want to say something. I was interviewing a Polish poet yesterday, and someone just wrote this, which is related to music. Someone just wrote this in the comments. So that's coming from a viewer. Get there. Just so someone was watching my interview with Anna Maria Mikevitz. I'm very bad at pronouncing the surname. Yes, in the interview I had yesterday, this person was watching it today, and this person wrote a comment like this: I paused my music for this, and it was worth it. So
wow,
yeah,
cool.
This comment was just an hour ago.
That's cool.
The intersection of music and podcasts, maybe that's something to explore as well. So that was a very good comment. So thank you very much to that person. I will try to find out who is he or she. So guys, I'll see you next month. We'll come up with a Tuesday. I hope to see the viewers again on the other side of the screen. And if they haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. That's the best way for this thing to be distributed in the YouTube sphere. There's plenty of competition out there, but we try to do our best here. We want to be insightful. We want to put our experiences in a way that guys can relate to. If you enjoy what we did here, make sure to press the like button. And if you know someone who may benefit from our discussion, why not share? That's the best way to ensure that this thing is seen by a lot of people. So, guys, I see you very soon, and I wish you a good evening. Take care.
You too. Thank you for having us. Bye.
Thanks a million.